Yeah, here's today's little treat. A 2008 Ford Ranger. It's in very nice condition too, this one. And the owner obviously looks after it well. And it has a leaking pinion seal on the rear. I can't remember whether she said she thought it had been done before or not, but that doesn't matter. It's leaking now. So let's get underneath, have a look, and I will show you different ways of dealing with this particular problem. And by that I'm talking about making sure that things go back as they were. As you can see, it's reasonably tall, this truck. I might be able to go up one more notch, but I'm not going to risk it. I don't want to damage the customer's truck. Just means I'm going to have to duck down a lot lower in order to get underneath it. But hey, look on the bright side. I've at least got a ramp to do it. Now let's get under and have a look. Well, here it is. As you can see, it is extremely wet. And in fact, it's even throwing the oil on the gas tank here. For a second there, I thought we had a gas tank leak as well, but looking at this, where this oil is, it's just, yeah, it's all over the place. And one thing I have noticed, and I'm not happy about, I can't be sure that it's purely from that pinion seal. What I'm going to do is suggest to the customer, I'm going to clean all this up before I go much further. I'm going to suggest to the customer that we do this repair, which is already booked, and then we see, because if this gasket here is leaking as well, we want to make sure that nothing is coming out of there. It may not be, it's just awfully wet around here, but looking at the way this oil has thrown itself everywhere, I think it's a fair bet that the diff gasket is probably okay, but that pinion is definitely not. The only concern I have at the moment is I'm going to have to suck the oil out because I don't see a drain plug on the diff. I see a fill plug, but I don't see a drain plug. So I want to get the oil out, or at least as much of it as I can, and I've got a suction pump to do that. So let me spray this with brake cleaner, then spray this with penetrant, and then we will get on to actually doing the work. And I will show you different methods that people use, and I will show you what I do. Yeah. I'm just having a look underneath here while I'm here. I always like to have a quick look around so the customer knows. Now, what are we looking at here? Is that seal leaking as well, the gearbox seal? It is weeping. It's not terrible, but it is weeping. Again, I'll let the customer know. Oh, there's the fuel filter there. Wonder how long since that was changed. Okay. It's not, that pinion seal there is not terrible, but it's certainly something that has to be dealt with. Let's just get up the front of the engine. Okay, there is a small leak from the transmission. You can see a bit of the transmission fluid there, and the build-up of mess there, and on that plug there. I'll ask them how long ago it was since they had it done. That transmission fluid change, that is. Oh, there is oil leaks. This is what you've got to expect. But there's nothing terrible. But, you know, it's things to keep an eye on. See, it's got nice new shocks all around. Yep, that's good. I don't see any major leaks around here. Serpentine belt, how are you? Serpentine belt's cracked. That should need to be replaced. Why have I got liquid here? Yeah, maybe they just went through a puddle or something. Now, the customer hasn't asked me to do an inspection. I'm just looking around, make sure she's safe, make sure there's nothing terrible that needs to be addressed. There doesn't appear to be so far. Rotor's looking good condition. Oh, that one's got some scratching on it, but let's see. Oh no, that's okay. That is okay. Can't really see the pads that well. They're about 50% gone, I would say. Looks like she's had new control arms fitted on the top. Guess they didn't do the bottom ones. And the bushes on the lower control arms look okay. A little light cracking, but I don't think that's anything to be worried about yet. Just something to keep an eye on. And I will tell the customer about this video so that they can look at it and decide. There's rusty water up there. I'll have a look under the bonnet a little later, see what I see. And this person is a new customer to me. I've worked on her husband's vehicle. And this is the first time I've seen this particular vehicle. And I don't want them to think I'm just trying to drum up work. Unlike some shops that do. I'm just showing her what's there, and then she can make her own mind up as to what's to be done. Right, let's go get that down there cleaned. Okay, let's just have a quick look under here. Looking at that, I would guess there was a mouse infestation at some point, because that's the kind of wreckage they do. Mousies or rats. Let's see. I don't see its home wherever it is. Let's grab this light. I think that rust there was the probably the battery dying. Yeah, that is what I would guess. Nothing terrible. Could do with a bit of a clean under here. Looks like it's got a new compressor. So I guess the AC was recently done. Coolant's down a bit. I'll top that up for them. I'll check the steering fluid, and I'll check the oil level when I get it back on the ground, and transmission fluid level. There appears to be some kind of strange spring over there. Not sure what that's to do with. Maybe it was to stop it rattling or something, I don't know. However, it's there, so I'll leave it there. I don't want to mess with the customer's car where I shouldn't. Now, let's see. Okay, the next thing to do, so that we can continue with this job, is get it in neutral, which means turning the ignition on and putting it in neutral. Now, then you disconnect the battery. Now, I have a battery saver, which I will connect. That will hopefully save any radio stations they have or any radio codes. And then you turn the ignition off, because you've got to have it in neutral to spin the rear wheels, but you don't want to be running the battery down with the ignition on all that time, and also it won't do the coil any favours. So let's get it in neutral, disconnect the battery and take it from there. Right, I've now given this a good dousing of brake cleaner, and the stuff you see dripping there is penetrant. I'm gonna leave that for a little while, then I'll spray that again with brake cleaner, because then I want to mark where the connection is, where the pinion the flange meets the prop shaft. God, I need new teeth this morning. I will be center punching it as well as painting on it. Painting's just a quick, easy reference, but in cleaning, often the paint will come off. So you need to make sure that you put it all back in the right position. I think it was in Monty Python, and they were talking about Shakespeare, and I think it was John Cleese that was being interviewed, and it was a Python sketch, and he said, "The words are all there, Eddie baby. Now you all got to do is get them in the right order." Silly Python humour. I love it. Right, I've given this a very light clean-up so far. Put a yellow mark there and spin it round, and there is a white mark there. Underneath the white mark are dimples. I've center punched there and there, so I know exactly now where this has to go back. Some people just like to use the paint. I don't, because it can come off. As you can see here, it's a bit messy. I've scraped off some of the crap. I will try and give it a better clean before it leaves here. It won't be perfection, I can tell you that, but it will be a darn sight better than it currently is. Okay, next is to get the prop shaft disconnected and tie it up out the way. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Right, I did try using an impact on this, but the angle's a little tight and I couldn't get the gun straight on to it, so I had to use a UJ. And that was really not successful. You lose too much power. So the way I've done it is with a little 3/8 breaker bar and the socket. I'll tell you what size that is in a minute. And I've used this pry bar in here across the nuts, so that I'm not pressing on the universal joint of the prop shaft. Okay, this socket is, that was close to my toes, surprised it didn't hit them. This is a 12mm socket, and now I can use the impact with the UJ because I've cracked all my nuts. Okay, I was about to say, and do the next bit, would say, when you take out the last bolt, just leave it in there a bit and then give this a tap with a hammer. Don't hit the joint, don't hit here, don't hit the prop shaft, hit over here on this joint to break it free, because it will be rusty as hell. They always are. And I'm doing this, and perhaps because I'd already put penetrant oil there, when undoing this last bolt, the shaft moved. Yippee! Okay, I have tied the prop shaft up and out of the way, just with a piece of rope up around the spring. The next job is to mark this up, but first, before I do that, I want to clean up the threads. Then what I will do is I will center punch the shaft, I will center punch the nut, and I will center punch the flange. And I will count the threads that are protruding. This way it ensures that I get it back to where it should be. Now, before you do anything else, give it a feel. Hey, look, see that play? So you know that there is that much play in it. You just kind of get a feel for it. One other thing that I'm going to do is I am going to get my torque wrench with a socket on here and see what poundage or inches or Norton meters, whatever you want, Newton meters, it takes before this moves. That also gives me another guide as to how tight this nut needs to be. But I do want to get a wire brush on that first and clean up those threads. Okay, where I've made my little mark here, if I count down from the the surface to where the nut is. I've got 1 groove there, 2 grooves, 3 grooves, and the thread disappears. So now I know that I've got 3 grooves. So that's what I need to use as my measurement, but I'm still going to do the torque test. Unfortunately, my smallest torque wrench only goes down to 60 inch-pounds, and it moves way before it gets to that. So I cannot do that method. Therefore, I'm going to rely on my little punch marks, and in order to enhance them, I'm going to put some white stuff on it. There, right there, and right there. Right, that's marked. Let's get this nut off. Okay, the nut is off. It was a 27mm. It was tough to get off. It looks as if they've used blue or purple Loctite, which I've never seen purple, but blue I have, so maybe it's blue and it's just got discoloured. I will be using red Loctite when I put it back. I've sprayed in there now with some penetrating oil, and I will now go and get my puller to pull this flange off. This flange shouldn't come off easily, but it shouldn't be terrible. In other words, you shouldn't be able to pull it off with your fingers. You should need to use a puller. Let me get my puller and get that done. Okay, here is my setup to get that flange off. You can do it with a 2-legged puller, but I like the 3-legged. Also, do make sure all of these are done up finger tight. Well, almost there, but as you can see, oil is now running out of the diff. I'm just trying to see if that is... Yeah, it's lower than the level plug, so not a surprise. And actually the oil looks pretty darn good. I may not change it, that way it'll save the customer some money. I'll see once I've got the seal out. Well, the oil is certainly gushing out of there, making a big piddle puddle on the floor. Fortunately, I have some cardboard down there. I think maybe I better get myself a bowl. But before that, this is the flange now off. This has to be cleaned thoroughly inside here. Make sure there is no ridges on this edge. This one doesn't seem too bad. There's a little mark there, but we'll see how that cleans up. Fortunately, I have a sandblaster, so I'm going to degrease this first, then I will give it a bit of a sandblast, and we'll see how she turns out after that. Now we see the old seal and the new one. Yep, that looks about perfect to me. Always a good idea to make sure it's going to fit. Now, the challenge is getting that one out. There's 2 methods. One is with a seal puller. This is the beast. It may or may not work. We will see. It's a little tricky because of the shaft being there. If that doesn't work, then what I will do is get a chisel in under here, bash this edge in, and then pull it out. Doesn't matter that I'm going to destroy the seal. I'll tell you what, why don't we have a look-see. I need 2 hands. Well, unfortunately, the bearing is stuck in there pretty solid. I think it's stuck on this shaft. There is no movement here. And I'm not going to force it out. I don't want to damage it in any way, shape or form. Also, do note that because I have the rear of the truck lifted up, that's why we're getting more oil out of here. But that's not a bad thing. Just got to wait for it to stop dripping. Right, here is the flange. Cleaned up. The bolts are cleaned up. I've cleaned the threads. I've given them a polish with a wire brush. Is this something other shops do? I want to say I doubt it. I just like to be as thorough as I can. Does it make a difference? I hope so. Here I have the seal, and I have this little piece here that just, and I got to say just fits. So I've got to be very careful when I'm driving this seal in. I wish I had something bigger. I don't. I could try putting something directly across, but we will see. I'm going to try with this first of all, just to see if I can get it started, and then maybe I'll just finish it off without this piece. I don't know. We will see how that goes. Yeah. I've looked at this. There doesn't appear to be any ridges. It seems to be okay. I'm going to put a little grease in here just so that everything slips in nice and easy. And, then we'll see how it goes. So let me get some grease into here now, and we move on. Okay, here it is, greased up and ready. A little more grease than perhaps is needed, but I want to make sure everything's okay. Also, some people will put thread locker in here. That makes it very difficult to get off. It shouldn't leak through there. There shouldn't be any fluid there. But, hey, who knows? Someone asked me, when I'm doing a video of a customer's car, do I charge them for the time that it takes me to video what I'm doing? The simple answer is no, that wouldn't be right. When I work on a customer's car and I create a video, my objective is to do it on the book time, and I have a software package I use that tells me what the book time is, and I set my hourly rate accordingly. And it's no different from anybody. It's always the same hourly rate, and I'm not going to tell you what that is. So I look at the job, I go through my piece of software that says, okay Gary, it will take you 3 hours to do this. And at my hourly rate, that means they will be charged Then I get on and do what I want to do at the speed that I want to do it. This job I started at approximately 10 o'clock this morning. It's now 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I haven't finished it. Oh no, shock horror. Well, I'm videoing it. And the idea of me videoing it is, one, the customer will see it. And two, it may help some other guy out there that wants to do it and wants to know how I did it. I won't say I'm doing it all the right way. I believe I am. But hey, everybody's got their own method. So no is the answer. I do not charge customers time. I charge them what the book tells me it will take. That way I can spend all day doing a 10-minute job if I want to, and the customer knows he's only going to have to pay me for a 10-minute job. Although I don't have a rate for 10 minutes, half an hour is my minimum. However, there you go. Just thought I'd throw that in. Good God, I hear you cry. What is this man up to? Well, this area here holds oil, and I'm trying to get everything dry around here, and it's still oily. I've been spraying it with brake cleaner, but of course then the brake cleaner fluid goes in and that raises the level of the oil and the oil runs out. I want to get this as dry as I can, or as clean as I can from oil, because I'm going to put in the seal, and I'm also going to put gasket sealant on it. You know, it's a belt and braces job, and this is the stuff I use, although no, sorry, that's a terrible view, but anyway, it's the black one that's oil resistant. That is my plan. The paper towel is stuffed in to this little dip here, and I will let it sit there for probably 5 or 10 minutes while it soaks up the oil. Then the oil, it should be, yes, catching a monkey, it should be down far enough so that when I spray brake cleaner again to clean up the surface, it does not bring the oil to overflow and then make me go through the whole process again. But we will have to wait and see. Now, I've cleaned up around the oil filler plug there, and that will enable me to undo that plug without crap getting inside the diff. And you don't want that crap inside the diff because that's sand and grit and nasty stuff that doesn't do the rear diff any favours. I don't know how many miles are on this vehicle. I really have no clue, but I bet you it's more than 100,000 miles. So, you know, the diff has lasted this long. Yes, there is some play in the diff, but as far as I'm aware, it's not making terrible noises. When I take it for a drive, I guess I'll find out. There we are. New seal is now in place. I'm just going to wipe a little more grease around here, and then we can put the flange on, making sure we line up with the dot there and the dot on the flange. Okay, hopefully you can see this dot and dot. So they are perfectly aligned. Okay, as can be seen here, I have my dot there and my dot there, and I'm still not showing enough threads. So I need to tighten this up a little more. Not too much, I'm just beginning to get threads to show. So that's good. Let me get it in the right place. Okay, and here we are now back in line. Dot there, dot there, dot there. I can come a gnat's cock further with the nut, but I'm not going to push it. You can see now I have my 1, 2, 3 threads, and then it disappears. Yeah, no, sod it. I'm sorry, I'm anal. I'm going to take it that extra little gnat's cock. Yes, that poor little gnat. There he is now, perfectly aligned, although it may not show up on the camera. All right, now it's a matter of putting the shaft back on and aligning it up with the dot. Come on, show the dot. Where's the dot, 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 dot? Sorry, my camera's deciding to fuck with me. There, see the little dot? And we'll line that up with this white mark here. We will then take this drain plug out, filler plug out, and noting that there are a couple of threads sticking out, so don't overdo it, and top it up with oil once it is back level, not while it is in the air. Otherwise you will fill it to the wrong level. Okay, let's get on and do that. I will also be, coating this surface with copper grease. And the reason for that is so that when the next guy comes along to do the same job, which will happen, I'm sure, it's not rusted. All right, I think that's about it. I don't need to show you me bolting this back on. That you can do. I don't need to show you me topping up the oil. That you can do, especially if you've got this fucking far. I will be cleaning up the back of the differential housing just to make sure. So, yep, that is about it. Get out in the garage, go do some shit.